Ooh.
Get the fuck back before you're torn apart your back with the devil ain't stronger than the holy odds. Don't be trying to bring this shit in here when we operate the knowledge that inspires your darkest fears. You sit down bragging.
Hello, happy Sunday. Welcome. Happy, what else is it today? Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there of whatever gender, I guess. Call your mom, talk to your mom, do something nice for your mom if you're able to, or think about your mom or good memories of your mom. And I know not everyone has good mothers, but so you don't have to do anything on Mother's Day if it's not healthy. What else? Open panel. Come up and talk about, tell your mother's story. Today we can do crazy mama stories if you want. If anybody has any crazy mamas or knows any crazy mama stories. But I think this is a day to like honor mothers. Wasn't it created by the greeting card companies? Let me look it up. Hallmark. Mother's Day. Honoring the mother of the family or individual, as well as motherhood, maternal bonds, and the influence of mothers in society. I guess that can include, I mean, they're stretching everything nowadays, so I guess it can include maternal figures in addition to mothers themselves. But I think Mother's Day is specifically for that one that plays the role of mother. 19th century, on the British Isles, they had Mothering Sunday. The Americanized version has been criticized for having become too commercialized. Yeah, but people criticize everything. The modern holiday was first celebrated in 1907. Anna Jarvis held the first Mother's Day service at the Andrews Methodist Episcopal Church. What's the Methodist Episcopal Church? I thought those were two different denominations. Let's check this out. Methodist Episcopal Church, the oldest and largest Methodist denomination in the United States. It reunited with two breakaway Methodist denominations, the Methodist Protestant Church and the Methodist Episcopal Church, South, to form the Methodist Church. And in 1968, it merged with the Evangelical United Brethren Church to form the United Methodist Church. Okay, Happy Mother's Day, y'all. I'm done. Hey, Daniel Barry. Hey, Auntie, you're a mom, right? Happy Mother's Day. This is your day. This is Mother's Day panel today. Mothers get the reins here today. If they want to introduce topics, change topics, kick people off panels, change people's names, the moms get to have their day today. So happy Mother's Day. And we're doing crazy mama stories. So if you have any crazy mama stories, feel free to come up and tell them. Otherwise, we'll just do a regular panel. I think we're still going to have movies and stuff go into the Discord later. I have a Nietzsche documentary I've been wanting to see. And one of Walt Whitman, we have that Laurie Anderson lecture series. So we're getting a little more intellectual, I think, in our content. And then we still do the trashy comedies and the reality TV. So don't fret over that. It's still there. So let me see what else is going on today. I came across this passage in Emerson, and it made me think of, I don't know, it reminded me of some of the conversations here in the panel verse. So I think I'm going to read it. It's a rather a larger paragraph, so I'm not going to be able to share it all. on the screen, so I'll just read it. But it's from Nature, his first book. I think it was 1935, maybe 1937. And he's kind of talking about maybe the relationship between science and faith, or science and religion. And remember, this is like 1830, 1835. The problem of restoring to the world original and eternal beauty is solved by the redemption of the soul. And kind of the context for this is people feeling like they're losing that kind of stuff. And I know that there's people today that feel like they're losing values that were once important to society. And kind of the black pillars, how they look out on the world and they see a lot of doom and gloom, or decadence or degradation, or whatever they see. So the problem of restoring to the world original and eternal beauty is solved by the redemption of the soul. The ruin or the blank that we see when we look at nature is in our own eye. The axis of vision is not coincident with the axis of things, and so they appear not transparent but opaque. The reason why the world lacks unity and lies broken and in heaps is because man is disunited with himself. He cannot be a naturalist. That's like my position, the more scientific position. He cannot be a naturalist until he satisfies all the demands of the spirit. Love is as much its demand as perception. Indeed, neither can be perfect without the other. In the uttermost meaning of the words, thought is devout and devotion is thought. Deep calls unto deep. But in actual life, the marriage is not celebrated. There are innocent men who worship God after the tradition of their fathers, but their sense of duty has not yet extended to the use of all their faculties. And there are patient naturalists, but they freeze their subject under the wintry light of the understanding. Is not prayer also a study of truth, a sally of the soul into the unfound infinite? No man ever prayed heartily without learning something. But when a faithful thinker, resolute to detach every object from personal relations and see it in the light of thought, shall at the same time kindle science with the fire of the holiest affections, then will God go forth anew into the creation. So I just wanted to share that. I thought a lot of the themes resonated with what I hear on the panels. I am having a wonderful day so far. I hope you're having an even more wonderful day, being a mother. But I'm not a mother, so I'm just having an ordinary day. I don't know if I get a day. What do they have, like Sunday, or they have sibling day, which is new. I just found out about it the last few years. Grandson day, that's the only thing I would fit, really, or brother or sibling day. Good. And I hope you're doing something nice for yourself too on Mother's Day. Even if it's like a little thing, like just putting a little extra cream in your coffee or something. It's psychological. It gives you that little psychological lift or boost. Chris, I believe, is in Texarkana, maybe, with little Juniper and his daughter. So I don't know if he'll be here today or not, but that's what he's up to. Other than that, I don't really have a whole bunch. I had some mental health stuff, but I want to save it for tomorrow, like the weekday. I think those work better on weekdays. So I guess I can do a little bit more of those questions maybe and see where that goes. And then if nobody shows up, we can do a short stream today, because we have a ton of stuff that somehow I'm involved in, like 4 or 5 different shows at the same time. And today's my D&D night, D&D game too. So I have to make some room for that. Sundays are usually my shorter days anyway. Okay, let's see. Where's those questions? Oh, sports questions. These would be good for Daniel Barry. How does being a sports fan impact your life? You've been pampering yourself. Good, good, good. That is good to hear. I hope you're dipping some strawberries into homemade cream and really indulging yourself, if that's healthy for you. See, all-time favorite sports moment. I don't have one of those at all, even in my own life. Um, Greatest athlete. I don't know. Is Jesse Owens an athlete? Was he great? I don't even know all this. Um, Questions for athletes. What's your daily training routine like? How do you mentally prepare for a match? Who has been your toughest opponent? These are all good questions. I wish they applied to me. Ooh, they have a whole set about mental health. Wow. What misconceptions about mental health do you wish to address? Um, Not so much misconceptions, but destigmatizing it. Like it's something that, and they've kind of been doing this. What the Western healthcare system's kind of been doing this for a while with the mental health parity. Um, that it's just a normal part of general health, and anybody, just like anybody can get a physical health condition, anybody could get a mental health condition, and there are environmental factors like stress and stuff, and just like there are environmental factors that can influence physical health. So kind of just start to normalize it and see it as this is just a part of being human, having a human body, a human nervous system, a human brain, and that there's nothing to don't make more of it than it is, and no need to kind of mythologize it or pathologize it beyond what it actually is. So I think that I would just like try to get people to see, and I think the trend is that like in the media and not even just like fictional shows, but discussion shows and talk shows. I think people are much more comfortable talking about mental health than in my day. And in my day, it wasn't really uncomfortable. It just wasn't talked about. Like we watched that Ordinary People movie the other day, and one of the moms beefs, one of her like one of the things that put her at odds with the dad and the rest of the people is she didn't want the family to know that the son was seeing a psychiatrist. She thought it was, or the implication is that she thought it was shameful. She thought it was a private family matter. She didn't think that other people needed to know that information. She was she was a narcissist too, so it was all about family appearances. She also didn't want any chinks in the family armor. But with me, who I mean, I was about 10 years old when that movie came out, so I'm kind of that generation. But to me, it was much less like that. Like in my culture, it's not that they didn't talk about mental health or know what to do with it. It's that religion took the place of mental health care, and religion was their paradigm for mental health and was their therapeutic resource. So if you were having depression or stress or anxiety, you prayed about it. You turned to Jesus. You got right with the Lord, etc. And that if it continued, then there was something off there, and you addressed it religiously with a priest or additional prayer or rosaries or whatever. So that was their solution to mental health. And believe it or not, the people were more or less really healthy. Like I was probably the exception with and mine weren't really mental health issues initially. They were adjustment difficulties caused by being in a new environment with new stressors that I was not adapted to, and they were not adapted to me. And so that led to some stress and anxiety and suboptimal functioning, etc., until we found the right environments for me. So, what was the question? What misconceptions? I guess I've addressed that. Oh, well, number two is what's your perspective on the stigma surrounding mental health? I never, I'm from the South where crazy people are not they're normal. They're everywhere. So like being crazy in the South is not really, there's not really a lot of stigma. Especially there's several types of crazy. And in the South, we mostly have fun crazy. So they're crazy, but you can still hang out with them. You can still invite them to parties. Some of them, you know, they're still part of the community. You see them at the grocery stores, you chat with them, etc. Everybody knows them. Um, and but then there's like scary crazy and like psychotic crazy. And I didn't see that till I moved to Vegas and then up here. So like I had to leave Louisiana to see that kind of crazy. And I wasn't prepared for that. Um, and then working in the mental health unit, I saw other types of actual psychosis, schizophrenia, like abnormal mental health state, or organic brain related or chemically induced states. And that expanded my spectrum of crazy as well. Oh wow. Okay, a toffee caramel latte with, oh man, you're doing it right. take a take a cue right here from Auntie on Mother's Day. This is how you do it, moms. Treat yourself and pamper yourself. And get all the men around you, all your sons and kids to do it too, if you can. And your daughters too, I guess. It's all your children. Just work everything you can out of this day. This is your day. How has mental health awareness changed in recent years? I kind of addressed that too. I think it has become, just like neurodivergence has become more understood and destigmatized and normalized, I think mental health has. We see the trends and the gender issues have. Homosexuality was in my generation. So these things are, and I got to say, I have to give credit to the people, the American people, the masses, the average, ordinary Joe, whoever, the deplorables, whatever you want to call them. They've done a remarkable job with adjusting and accepting all of this stuff and tolerating it way more than I think they get credit for. And you have a few that still kick and fuss, but my confidence in the ability of majority of Americans, if you treat them respectfully and decently and explain things in a way that makes sense and it has society's best interest, I think most of them will adjust to all of these new things that keep coming up. Like I think some lines are going to be drawn. Hopefully it's kids, like the Therian trend where people think they're animal spirits, whatever. I don't know if that's necessarily something society needs to adjust to, but who knows? Maybe the next generation that will be the norm. But my point is, I'm more optimistic about society's ability to absorb these things and individuals. Like I have faith in their ability to, like get used to new categories and ideas and then adjust. So I think we're seeing that with mental health too. In general, I find people, and maybe because I'm from the South or whatever, but in general, I find that people generally want to be helpful. And if they know how to be helpful, they will usually do it. They'll help a stranger, they'll hold the door, they'll stop if somebody's in an accident, et cetera, et cetera. They'll let you use their phone, whatever. So if people understand more about mental health, more about autism, more about transgenderism, whatever, and they know what helps, like what's helpful to that condition, most people do it. Most people try to use pronouns. Like most people are well-intentioned and they don't really put up a fight against pronouns because if it helps the person, sure, I'll use the pronoun. They're not Enneagram 8, 7 wings, the challengers like I am, and full of trait reactants. But again, I'm the outlier. So my point is, like, I think most people more or less want to, are willing to, and are capable of learning how to be supportive of mental health in today's society. And I think if we give society that chance and teach them, not in a condescending way, but just give them the information and the tools they need, I think they'll do the right things with it, and that mental health will become normalized, and we'll figure out. As far as the solution to it, I already know the solution is you got to get. To me, the system is very top heavy, and the resources are concentrated at the top, not at the bottom where the actual services are delivered and where they're needed the most. And just the staff competent. You have to hire people who know what they're doing, and then create policies and structures that support that and doesn't work against them. Just like in education, that's why all the good teachers are leaving, because your system doesn't support the kind of teachers that can go in there and educate the kids. And the mental health systems don't always support the type of staff that can go in there and actually be effective in people's mental health solutions. And so, and I think it doesn't even have to be clinical. I think the last few decades have shown, and they consider it evidence-based now, that peer support can be a enormous resource for mental health. And so expanding the peer support movement, tapping more into peer support, I think is a really, because we know we're going through the same thing. That's the whole principle of peer support. It's mutual and reciprocal. We're going through the same thing, so we can help each other by just sharing how we got through or manage or cope with our thing, and we can learn from them. So it's this sharing of knowledge where we learn from each other and support each other, because we're both in the same, having the same experience or similar experience. So a common experience is the basis for our the authority of our particular practice, not clinical knowledge or theory. Yeah, I don't think fetishes. I don't think fetishes should be anywhere outside of the bedroom or the home. If you have like a kink home, um, I don't even think it needs to be in your front yard. Like that's that one of the things in my generation with the gay rights, one of the arguments that we used often, and one of the principles that our movement was founded on, was the right to privacy in your own home, that adults in their own home should be able to do what they want as long as it's consensual and they're not hurting anybody, and strangers should not be policing or worrying about. So part of the that was the ask, or that was what we were wanting. But part of that is the responsibility for keeping it in the home. Like, yes, we want you to stop policing what we do in our bedrooms and leave us alone. But at the same time, we should not be bringing it out in the streets to you and parading it in front of your face for you to criticize. We can't have it both ways. If we want the right to privacy, then we have to keep it private. And that's where I think I'm in the minority there. So I think all people's like, I don't see any reason other than like there's specific festivals in specific cities. San Francisco has a few. New Orleans has Southern Decadence. New York has some. Chicago. A few days of the year, and they have them in Europe too, where people can parade out in the streets in their chaps and their harnesses and walk their puppy boys and wiggle their ass and all that stuff. And so if that's contained and you have to seek that out to be a part of it, and it's not inflicted on the public, and the public still has control of whether they see it or not, I think stuff like that is fine, but that's as far as I would push it, honestly. Like, keep it in a nightclub where people know ahead of time what they're going for, they're paying the cover to see it, etc. Keep it in private homes. Keep it in community organizations. Seattle up here has a nonprofit created by people from the kink community to promote kink and sex positivity. So they have or they used to have a building. I think they were trying to get a new one, where members could come, and they have kink parties and stuff like that. So that's another option. But the point is, it's private. You have to seek it out. There's a gatekeeping mechanism to make sure the people that want to be there are there, and the people that don't want to see it or be involved are kept out of it. And I think that is a workable compromise. I think those are reasonable expectations, and I think that is the line for me. That's as far as I'm interested in pushing. But a lot of people, like the current activists, push it because it's a tool to dismantle social norms. So I think a lot of them are intentionally pushing it because they do want that. Just like I want mental health normalized and autism normalized, and I do want kink and fetishes normalized. I just want them normalized within a consensual context, which the way you ensure that is privacy. So now I do want people to, I do want the public, like if you have a coworker that shows up at work with a discreet, you know, collar under their blouse or whatever, to not freak out and know that yes, there are people that are into that kind of stuff and have those kind of relationships. So I want like maybe people to be able to go in public with some very modest like insignia of their kink identity so they can like signal to each other that they're in that community. I don't mind that kind of stuff. But the actual fetishes themselves, I don't like. That's private. That's why it's a fetish. It's not normal. It's your own like personal perversion. And why would anybody that also doesn't share that perversion want to participate in that, even passively, even visually, as a bystander? That just seems like like really pushing the social contract. I'm very much a live and let live, laissez-faire. You do your thing. You leave me alone to do my thing. I will leave you alone to do your thing. I may not like it, agree with it, but as long as it's not hurt me or anybody else, I'm not going to interfere with it. I'm not here to judge it. I'm just here to make sure it doesn't become antisocial. And so I'm very good about letting people do their thing. I just think that there's limits to involving other people against their will. Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I had kink t-shirts I would wear. I had when I was younger at college, I had the spiked dog collar that I got at the pet store. We had these metal cock rings. They were just metal ring. They were welded. They were one piece. They didn't open or anything. And we would buy a bunch of them and wear them on our wrist as fashion accessories. And they were just these big metal hoops. And I have skinny hands and wrists, but I had to like squeeze my hand really hard to get those things on. I still have them somewhere, I think. And once they were on, they were not coming off. Like I had to really work them off. And so every now and then they got stuck. If I was a little bloated or carrying extra puffiness or something, they could get stuck on there. And so anyway, my point is stuff like that we wore in public all the time. And we were like in our 20s. I'm very liberal about people's fashion choices. I mean, I was given the freedom to express myself in some pretty crazy ways, so I don't want to restrict that from others. Even the people that put the like plates in their lips or the big things in their ears, or they get the spikes implanted into their skull and then they screw on the little spikes. Um, I, that's I'm yeah, that's your body, your life. You're not hurting me by doing it. I don't have to do it myself or be involved. I have no problem with how people dress. Now, if it's like the sissy diaper porn, where they have the old 70-year-old man at the mall in little baby Jane shoes with frilly socks and a diaper, talking to his mistress, and she's giving him tasks to do with the people at the mall. That to me that's not just fashion anymore. That's fetish. Yeah, and it is. There are going to be gray areas, and I think they're best handled locally because in a place like Seattle, the line is going to be much what people are going to react much less. You could probably walk someone down, at least in a lot of the neighborhoods. You could walk someone down the street in a harness with a collar on their neck and a leash, and nobody's going to bat an eyebrow. In like 10-inch stiletto heels, nobody's going to bat an eyebrow. But if you go to like a small town in Texas and try that, you're probably pushing their norms and their tolerance level. So I think those gray areas show up regionally and are best handled regionally. Like what a neurotypical would do, they would just learn the existing social norms at whatever new place they showed up and then adjust their kink to that. What an autistic person like me would do is walk out of the house in whatever I felt like and learn the hard way, and then probably still not adjust and just keep bumping up into the wall until I just ignore the people and find people where I could do my own thing. Hey, King Philip. Yes, definitely. It does not need to be at the fun little drag queen pride parades. It does not need to be in the schools. We don't need kink coloring books. Absolutely align for me. That's one of my biggest objection to queer theory is they're blurring and pushing that line further and further. Yeah. Well, we are. I mean, we're animals. We're biological organisms. But we're also cooperative. We're a cooperative species. So again, that's another blurry gray area because sometimes in helping others or not being selfish, we're also helping ourselves even more than if we were just being selfish. So it's kind of a dialectic there. I mean, all of that's instinct to me. I don't mind being selfish if it doesn't involve other people. And it just involves me, then I don't even think of it as selfish. I think of it as just me doing me. But I'm not a collectivist. I don't really care if I fit in with the group or how I impact the group. But I definitely like to keep the community in mind when I do things. I'm still going to do my own thing, but I'm also going to find ways to do things for the community and community things in my own terms, on my own terms, in my own way as well. So I don't just think about myself. Oh, what's that Jewish saying, that old, one of the sayings of the fathers, if I am not for me, then who will be? But if I am only for me, then what am I for? Or something like that. I have to find the saying one day. Some people, if I think to a bunch of upper class, sheltered liberal kids, it's probably child abuse. I do know that having said that, I was healthier as a teenager when I could fully express myself, or I was in environments where I could express myself versus where I was around people that were harassing me for it or that I had to kind of hold back. So I think in general, just allowing self-expression is better, but it's also for me a bedrock American value. So I think as an American particularly, every child should have self-expression just by virtue of being an American, because that's something that's so fundamental to our culture and our ethos here. Plus, here's my biggest argument for self-expression, even from kids. I am nosy as hell. I want to know everything. So if somebody's going to try to express something to me, I'm not going to try to stop them. I want that data. I want that information. Whether it's fashion, visual express, I want to see like if this is their identity, I want to see what they think their identity is. I don't want to interfere with it. I want to know it as it really is. So I learned that way. So for me, with my curiosity, that alone keeps me from checking people's self-expression. And I only do it on here when it starts to interfere with either the panel itself, like it's throwing the conversation off, or it's targeted maliciously at a guest, or it's interfering with me. And in the moment, I need to get that person off so that I can recover. Yeah, that's back to those gray areas though. Like, how do we know what's what? And that's going to be different in some places and others. Like, there are things. In fact, when I moved to the city I'm in now, when I was in Seattle, I could wear these antlers anywhere, and nobody said, like, nobody even looked at me. I went to the Starbucks. Every now and then somebody would say nice antlers. Oh, I like your antlers. I'd order my Starbucks with antlers. They'd hand it to me. They'd say, here you go. Like, have a nice day. I'd go to the grocery store. I'd be pushing the shopping cart in the aisle with the antlers. Nobody blinked. And when I moved to the smaller city I'm in now, I asked the roommate, I said, am I going to be able to wear my Satan shirts here? And he's like, oh, yeah, man, that's not going to be a problem. Nobody's going to care. And like the first week I was here, I saw Titanic t-shirts on walking around town. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. I said, do you think I'll be able to wear my antlers? And he said, that I don't know. You'll have to test that one. And so that told me already that what I could get away with so effortlessly in Seattle, I would have to test here because there might be a different reaction to it. And I still haven't tested it to this day. I have not tried to wear these in public in the new town. So maybe I'll do that one day and I can stream it and see what the test. Now, I did wear, like I wore this shirt, my Hell Satan, little rainbow Satan. He has his little punk collar on too, the unicorn. And I wore this to the grocery store and like I got so many compliments. The cashier was complimenting me and everybody, oh, I really like your shirt. So they're loving the Satan. We'll see how they feel about the antlers. But the whole point was like, in some places, some expression is tolerated or normalized differently than in other places. So those gray area, like when does it become a red flag? Which I guess is a signal for danger. Hey, Dave, what's up? Dave. And when is it just somebody? I remember when I started coloring my hair, it was the manic panic. I did robin's egg blue, I think electric green or lizard green or something, ultraviolet. And when I started the yeah, thanks a lot. And Dave is the one that does the karaoke on Fridays. So if you haven't checked out his channel, give him a like and subscribe too. And my mom freaked out. She absolutely freaked out. And I didn't understand why, because I was already hanging around friends with colored hair and they were at the house all the time. She never said anything. And so she said, you are not going to color your hair and live in this house, et cetera, et cetera. And of course I did it anyway. And because in her mind, it signaled to people that I was gay or queer, which I already was out. So I didn't even know why she was freaking out about that, because everybody already knew I was. But it communicated a certain thing that she did not want communicated about her son. And for me, it was just a fashion trend. Like everybody in my subculture was doing it. Like the people on MTV and all the music videos we were watching were doing it, etc. It didn't mean anything. It wasn't a signal. And so I ended up doing it anyway. And like the day I did it, all her friends had come over for tea or coffee or something. And they loved it. When I walked out of that bathroom and I like took the towel off and it was this bright electric, like aqua blue, they were raving about it. And of course my mom couldn't say anything. Like, so she was like, yeah, oh, I told him that was a good color. I'm like, no, you didn't. You told me you would kick me out if I did it. So she tried to reverse course once she saw the reaction of her friends. So that's another example of like it. For some people, it signals one thing, and for other people, it doesn't. So, oh, you quit the karaoke. Okay, yeah, I'll quit telling people this karaoke too. Are you still doing anything on Friday, or anything you want me to promote, or that you want to promote while you're here? So I don't know how we got on any of these topics, but it was all from these mental health questions. What advice would you give to someone struggling silently? Don't. Why? The only reason you're struggling silently is you're not sure how to reach out. You don't know who to reach out to, or you don't have anybody to reach out to. And so that's all temporary, and that can be addressed. And so if you are struggling silently, try to use your judgment, your intuition, and find like one or two of the safest people that you think at the time, because it does involve some trust to reach out to, whether it's a family member, friend, that therapy, if you're in services and you have professional therapists, or maybe one of the mental health, the crisis line. Or I used to work on. Oh, cool! You definitely let us know, because I've been looking to do more panels, like different panels, like less of the drama panels and more of your type, where the cool conversation happens. So yeah, definitely keep us posted. Um, I worked on, like, for a year. That's how I got my start, actually, as a peer. I volunteered on what was called the Warm Line, and it wasn't the crisis line. They had a separate department for a crisis, but it was people that were they just needed to talk. They just needed another voice on the end of the phone. They needed to be listened to. And so I did that for a year. And if there's places like that, there's probably national ones now, I'm sure. You can maybe even Google. But there may be some in your area, because that model was becoming adopted more and more, I think. And so there may be like formal services that are free that you can call. And now I know that there was a federal bill or something that all the states are setting up this, instead of 911, it's going to be like a different 11. And it's for if you're having mental health crisis. And there's going to be like, in Seattle or Washington State, it's still under the police department, but that particular number, whatever department mans that number, is going to be collaborating with some of the social service agents and the crisis center up here. And so they're going to have like this mixed team of mental health professionals and law enforcement that are going to field these calls, and then they'll be able to route them to crisis lines, crisis workers, emergency rooms if they need to, instead of having it all go to cops. So I think because of this federal thing, the states are now instructed to move to start implementing this additional emergency number you could call for like non-crime emergencies and mental health and those kind of emergencies. And there's going to be a different type of staff to help with those calls. Just said the other day that I was walking back from the store, and these cops were talking. They had stopped these kids on their bike in the park, and they were talking to them about something, I guess. And I noticed that they looked like cops, but one of them had the police vest, the flak jacket or whatever, the bulletproof thing, and kind of a cop shirt, but the vest said social worker or police social worker or something. So one person was a cop and one person was a social worker, and they were talking to these kids and probably just explaining to them, community standards and why it's important to follow the law and stuff, instead of just having two cops there talking to the kids. So they're kind of moving to that, integrating the mental health expertise with the law enforcement expertise now, at least here in my area, I'm seeing. So the whole point of this is, if you're struggling silently, if you're watching this and you're struggling silently, and you have no other resource or anywhere else to turn, come here, come find one of us, come on the Discord. We have a little team of informal peers that have gotten pretty good at supporting each other. So we'll try to help you find somewhere from there, but reach out wherever you're comfortable reaching out. And if you're not getting what you need from that person, then try something else. But the less you can isolate, the less you can struggle along, the better you're setting yourself up to start recovering out of it. So that's my answer to that question. These are really good. I might save, there's 10 of them. I'll do one more and then I'll save the rest for Monday. What coping strategies have you found effective for stress? Okay, brain states. My brain, and remember, it's neurodivergent, it's mutant brain. I cannot stay in a stressful state and a creative or engaged state at the same time. And so if I'm in a stressful state and I could switch my brain into that other state, that usually does it. There's also things like the cold water I talked about. If it's like a PTSD reaction or a mental health reaction, that's usually the sympathetic nervous system that's been activated with the is it adrenaline and epinephrine and norepinephrine, whatever. You can look it up. This is not a medical channel by any means, but there's things you can do if it's your actual nervous system getting activated to bring it down to the parasympathetic level. But outside of that, like just general life stress, for me, and everyone's going to have a different toolbox with different techniques, but for me, music, because it's like a form of active meditation for me, and it shifts my brain into a different state because I listen to music very actively. I get very involved in the different notes and melodies and patterns, so that can like help me get into that state. Reading, especially like literature, poetry, like stuff that is very high quality that puts my brain in kind of that aesthetic zone, that can help switch the brain state. Hiking, being outdoors, walking, going for well, I don't run, but if you do run, or just something to engage your body, get out in nature helps me. Nature alone, just like if it's like a lot of stress, like long-term stress, maybe a camping trip, maybe like a week out in the wilderness will reset me, will give me that pause, that breather. And then another thing, and here's, okay, this is a big one for me. This usually does it even before. Those are all things I can do in my room by myself. I can grab a book, I can put on a song, movie, TV show, Survivor, whatever puts you in your zone, because your aesthetic zone, like the zone that you're in when you're enjoying activities, is also the zone that's also part of the creative process. So you're already switching into the creative zone even by just engaging in an activity that you get enjoyment from, and at least taking yourself out of the stress state. So the big one for me is other people. I have a team of people I can call when I need to, if I really need to talk. A little phone set of people. You can have an online version. There's also online communities I can go to. There's Zooms, like Zoom groups throughout the week that I know of, that I have, have a calendar for. I can drop in on those if I need to. There's streams like this. So one of my missions is to create more options for that. We did that during COVID. We had that 24-hour Zoom going that people could drop in on. People were isolated. They were stressed. Like everybody was concerned about the future. It was a time when people needed that and they were reaching out for it. So things like that help me. If I can just process with somebody, think it through with somebody out loud, I'm usually good. I don't need someone to sympathize with my feelings or validate my emotions. I can do all that myself. I just need someone to help kind of be a sounding board or another pair of ears or eyes on the problem. And then probably the fifth thing that really helps me, setting for you, but it's an option. I'm getting a notice that they're having trouble streaming. Okay, let me check this out. We may be having tech difficulties. Can someone in the comments let me know if they can hear me? I just got a notice from StreamYard saying that there's a YouTube error. It looks like I'm still live. I'm on YouTube now. Hey, can you see? Can you see me waving at you? Yeah, I can see myself. Okay, well, it looks like it's working. So real quick, because it happened just before I was going to give you the big mega secret. All right, here it is. I'm going to give it to you in case it happens again. Porn, sexuality, like getting into that. Because for me, my sexuality is a completely different state of consciousness than waking consciousness because of the BDSM and sadomasochism and all that stuff. So porn can take me into that altered state, that out of a stress state into a different brain zone. And so that's another option if you're into that. Or for some people, it could be prayer. It could be saying a rosary. It could be communing with God or Jesus, or doing a meditation or yoga or Tai Chi. I have friends that go to these weekend retreats. In fact, Laurie Anderson talked about this in her lecture. They spend a weekend and it's completely silent. And they just walk around. And my friend said you're supposed to like focus your consciousness on like every cell, every atom of your body, and just start with your head and like walk around and breathe and go through. And he said it was the most intense, painful experience of his life. And by the end of the weekend, he was so physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually depleted from doing that. And he does it like, I don't know, once a year, every few years now. That's a really intense form of it, depending on how great the stress is. But I guess each tradition, like look at your spiritual tradition. If you're secular, there's still things like yoga, meditation, etc. But like the Western religious traditions may have things like prayer or meditation, or I don't know, maybe the mystics had some exercises that they used. And then the Eastern ones may have like some of the more Buddhistic techniques, like breathing, mindfulness, focusing your attention on body parts, meditation, etc. So the bottom line in all this is find what works for you, but find what works in the sense of what helps you shift out of that stress state, like mentally on a brain level, into that creative zone, whatever stage of that zone you could get to. If doing things, like if making things, going out in the shop and building something or making something with Legos or playing a video game or coding software or whatever, if that's what does it for you, use that. Use whatever works. Fishing, going out for a beer with the guys, don't become an alcoholic. Whatever works is my answer to what coping strategies have you found effective for stress. So I've shared like my 5 or 6 that work for me. But my go-to, like if right now I was alone in my room and some stressor happened, like I got some kind of bad, let's say I got an eviction notice. You have 3 days to get out of the house. Oh my God, my stress level just shot up. The first thing I would do probably is reach out to another person. I'd either call home, call some of my friends up here, some of my support system, maybe come on the Discord and see if Chris was around or Frank or somebody like that. Yes, Frank does give, he probably doesn't want you to know this, but he does give good mental health and good support. So don't spread that around. We'll keep it our little secret. But he is useful for some things. And that's probably the first thing I do. And then I would like, the first thing I do is I would sit my own ass down. If I'm escalated physiologically, I would get some cold water. I would get me a glass of ice water if it's hot in the summer, or something hot to drink if it's winter. I would relax my body, maybe breathe a little bit, although breathing's not my strong point. And then I would start calming myself down and getting a broader perspective. And like, okay, let's look at what's going on here. You just got an eviction notice. You have 3 days. It's not the end of the world. These things happen. People get these all the time. They happen for a reason. If it wasn't legitimate, then I know how to challenge it. But let's just assume it's legitimate and I fucked up, couldn't pay the bills, got the notice, stress level went up. Okay, you knew this was coming. You didn't pay the bills. You didn't have a backup plan. You have options. You know this. You've worked with other people in this situation. You're going to get through this. So I would start showing myself that it's not an, oh my God, eviction notice out on the street, homeless moment, which is the image. That's the mind movie my brain is, that got flipped on the minute I got the notice. So I would start working on that and showing, like, getting a broader and more realistic perspective, and then getting my reaction more in line with the new perspective, the more nuanced and multi-dimensional perspective. And then, so once I did all that, that would have me in a state where I could pick up a phone or shoot an email to somebody and then get on it and, of course, say, girl, let me tell you what just happened. And I'd still be worked up because when I'm telling the story, all the emotions are going to come out. But at least I would have gone through it in my head, and cognitively, at least, I would have the experience and the memory of having those additional perspectives be there so that I wouldn't fall into that emotion like I would if I had not done that groundwork. And then I would do the music and the books and the movies and all that stuff to kind of distract and keep my brain in a active, engaged state and not a worry, anxious state. So that is my answer to the mental health questions today. We'll do some more tomorrow. And if no one's going to show up, I think I will end early. I'll go like 5 or 6 more minutes to hit the hour mark. And then I have some more TV watching to do with Frank. I was going to try to do that Nietzsche documentary, but maybe I'll save that for tomorrow. I don't know. You know what I'll do? I'll put an announcement in the Discord, and I'll see if there's interest. And if you're not in our Discord yet, just contact one of us, and we'll get you an invite. You know what? It's Mother's Day. Maybe I'll just leave it alone today. We'll do it tomorrow. I think we'll have more engagement tomorrow anyway. So I wanted to talk about mothers as a topic, but I was hoping to have a panel to do it with. And I've talked about my own story with my own mother before. She wasn't a bad mother. She just didn't understand how to raise somebody like me. And we never had, our connection was just different. We're fine today. And then we had like rocky years as adults. And she struggled with some of the things about me. And at some point it came to a point, not really a crisis point, but it came to a peak. And I stopped talking to her for like over 10 years. I knew I could not have her in my life anymore for my own health and mental health. And we started talking just before COVID. I had just got fired from my job, and my uncle was dying, and she was trying to get in touch with me to talk to me about that and tell me about that. And I never took her call. I just ignored her calls. And because of the situation, like COVID, got fired, uncle died, I said, you know what? This is an exceptional situation. I've got to take her call. Like, this is just an exceptional situation. I would be a complete dick to not take her call in these circumstances. And so I took her call, and she asked me how I was doing, and I said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna tell her. Because she's the type of person, we had like a Mama's Family, a Thelma Harper Eunice relationship. So she's the type of person to take any opportunity to criticize. So if I give her any opening, she's going to take it and use it as an opportunity to jab. And I had just got fired from my job, and I knew this was like feeding red meat to a shark. I said, I'm going to tell her anyway. I have nothing to lose at this point. I'm not interested in hiding it. We have a global pandemic on the horizon. This is not a priority right now. And so I told her, and she was surprised, and I told her why. And she thought the reason was so ridiculous. And she thought my supervisor, like, she couldn't understand why my supervisor didn't know me better than that, to think that I was this big threat to the office and whatever. And that was the first time in my life that she had actually been supportive instead of critical. I'm like, because I was like steeled for the blow. I was like, okay, she's really going to give it to me now. And she was like taking my side and agreeing with me on how ridiculous the boss was for firing me in the first place. And I'm like, wow, this is what I've been wanting. This is all I needed from her my whole life. Like just the tiniest little micro drop of this. And I got it that day. And so when I tell people that I finally started talking to my mom again, it's not because I just, out of the kindness of my heart or out of some personal growth of mine, decided to. She did something on her end to allow that to happen. So she was the catalyst for that. And she was as much a part of that as me, if not more. So that allowed us to start talking again. And we got our relationship back. We still have our little moments, but I mean, our family has those little moments with everybody at some point or another. That's just normal family dynamics. I love my mom. I'm proud of my mom. She was a single mom. She raised 4 kids. We had a stepdad and 2 stepkids at some point, so that was a family of 6. After he left, she raised the rest of us on her own. A single mom with a full-time job, and then she got the child support or the alimony, whatever, and that's it. So we were very poor, and we did not want. We had a roof, we had food, we had clothes, we had basic needs, we even had basic entertainment. She could afford a movie now and then, or a record album, or cassette tape, or we got toys for Christmas. And she was a one-woman show. Now, she had support. She had a support network, friends, coworkers, family, grandparents, everything. But she did more than I was aware of at the time. And if I had been, I would have really looked up to her and respected her. If I had been aware of all the things she was taking on her own shoulders as a single mom that I was not aware of. And so she's kind of like a hero to me now. And I look up to her. I admire the hell out of her. I love her. And I would not want any other mother. If I had to come back and do it all over again, I would say, give me that same mom. And I told her this last year when we reunited. And she came up here for a visit, and it was our first time in person in like 15 years. I said, there's 2 things I appreciate as a kid that you did as a mother. I said, 1, you did not coddle us. And she didn't. Like if you fell off your bike, there's Bactine in the cabinet, there's Band-Aids. If you're sick, go take medicine. She's not going to sit there. And she was not a coddler. I knew I never got put in jail, but I knew if I was ever in jail, do not call her. Do not waste your one phone call on her, because she is not coming to the rescue of her precious baby. If he got himself in jail, let him get himself out of it. That's how she was. And I look at all the people that had these helicopter parents that coddle them, and I'm like, oh my God, thank God I was not raised that way. Thank God I had a mother that did not helicopter and did not coddle. So that's one thing I valued about her. And the other thing is, she did not need a man. If the relationship was working, fine. The minute it wasn't, she could get rid of a man like that. She was not needy. She was not clingy. A man was not going to come in and tell her what to do. She did not prioritize men over her kids. No, it's not. This was actually my wrap up. It was like my Mother's Day little wrap. It was supposed to be at the beginning with the panel, but because we didn't have a panel, I'm going to do it now and wrap up, and then we can go hang out in the Discord and tell prison stories, because I'm sure you have more than I do. I had a friend that was in prison a couple of times, and I went and visit him a few times. That's the extent of my prison stories. I've seen the inside of a prison where you go to the little glass window and talk to them on the phone, and they have to check you in and out. I did that part of it. Um, so anyway, yes, she was very strong, independent, did not need a man. She modeled independence for us very well. She fulfilled her duties as a mother and raised 4 kids on her own. And my antlers go off to her. And she's supportive to this day. She knows I do this stream. I let her know about the Satanism. She knows about the antlers. Um, she's in the past she would interfere, and now she's letting me do my thing, and she's still my mom. So we've come a long way, and I do love her, I do admire her, and I do respect her. So Mom, if you're watching this, I know you're not. I love you. Happy Mother's Day. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers that are in the audience. And did you have the neglectful mom? That's kind of what I had, and not neglect in the traditional sense, but neglect in the sense that she was very good at raising girls, but didn't know how to raise boys, and that's not her fault. She just didn't know how to do it, and there was nobody around. I got that from my grandma. I was a grandma's boy. My grandma knew how to raise me. So if you don't get what it is that you expect from a parent, you do like look for it in other places. Like I didn't get the father stuff at all, but I could watch my friends who had dads, and I was like, wow, that's what having a dad is like. They teach you stuff, and they help you like know how to get jobs and how to work with money and all. Like they teach you. You don't become an adult organically, and not in this modern age, in our modern Western hyper complex society. You have to be transitioned. Like it takes another human to do help you like through a process that takes you from the state of childhood or adolescence to the state of adulthood. And part of that for men, a lot of men, is having a male who can help you do that. It does not happen on its own. And I did not have that. I was just left on I was one of these people that was so smart. Nobody thought they had to do anything for me because I was going to just figure it out because I was the super genius and they didn't have to worry about me. And that was so not true. And when I got into college at age 17 and skipped my senior year and went to college, people took that as a sign that I didn't need it. Like, look, he just got into college at 17. What does he need us? What are we going to teach him? And they just left me alone to it. I was in college by myself. I was full-blown adult, 17, I didn't answer to anybody. I had complete freedom, and I botched all of it. I did not use it optimally. And I needed that guidance. I resisted it, but I also needed it. And so when you don't get that from the parent that you look for it from, and I know with guys, it's mostly the father, and with girls, I've seen it mostly be the mother, but I'm not going to be dogmatic or absolute about it. But whoever that parent is, and you don't get it, you should, not only do you should find, I think it's healthy and normal to try to find, if you're not going to get it from this person, or this is not a healthy source of it, then yeah, I need it. So I'm going to go get it from somewhere. And we use our like instinctive sense of health to kind of help us as a compass to figure out where those additional sources are. I know I definitely had them. I also, since we're doing Mother's Day, I have to do my mom away from home moms, my second moms. My mom's best friend growing up. They met when we were like teenagers in high school, and they were best friends ever since. And She was like a second mom to me. She took me in a lot of times when my mom and I were having trouble. I lived with her my third semester of college so I could be in the city that the college was in. She had a room that she rented to me. That was my first time being independent and living outside of my mom. And that was through her friend, her very best friend, and a second mom to probably all of us. So happy Mother's Day to her too. And there was my supervisor at the library, the university library that I worked at, who was like my college mom. So I always had a place at the library to go to talk to someone, to chat, to get support. You know, that little motherly touch that you get from people. So happy Mother's Day to her too. There's others. I want to make sure to at least include those two because they were so formative. And there's been plenty since. There's been coworkers, supervisors. I've been very fortunate to have some amazing, wonderful mother figures in my life. And yes, thank you, Frank. My black mamas, the ones that raised us. My mom worked during the day. She was a single mom. So before we were in grade school, we had, they would kind of rotate. We had like this main, she was a black woman, and she ended up adopted a little black girl at some point that would also, she'd like take care of all of us with the, so we had like a little black kind of sister-in-law. What do you call that in that culture that we grew up with as well? So we grew up more with these ladies. It was kind of like that movie The Help than we did with our mom. And so a lot of our personalities and our values and our culture and stuff came from them. And they would tell us, they said, you have a white mama and you have a black mama. And they say, we're your black mama. And it was always like a positive, it was always a good thing and a positive thing to have a black mom. Like we were so fortunate to have a black mama. So I want to say happy Mother's Day to all my black mamas out there too. I don't, there's no where, I'm going to end on that. I mean, there's absolutely no where to go from there. So happy Mother's Day to everybody. And I love all the mothers that have been part of my life and all of you in the audience. Frank, get me out here quick. I'll meet you on the island. All right. If we don't do an evening stream, which today's my D&D night, so it's iffy, but I'll see you tomorrow at the same time. And we'll do more mental health questions and that other thing I was going to do that I forgot that I'll remember by tomorrow. So thanks for watching. Go have a wonderful Mother's Day or just a wonderful day in general, and see you at the next one.